Good morning, everyone. I'm that dude over there, and have you ever watched a video that introduced you to something you never wanted to see? Well, for me, that was when I was introduced to Mike and Melissa by Salty DK Dan. Mike and Melissa is an animated pilot from a college student. Maybe? I never double checked. However, the short is very crude and lacks any sort of focus. Normally, that would be the end of it, and we would all go on with our day and forget about this animation. However, I am a man who likes to build others rather than rip into their flaws. I don't consider myself a writer, and as an artist, I lack the skill to create the kind of animations I want to produce. But that being said, I've seen enough TV and read enough stories to try and throw my hat in this non-existent ring, to attempt to make something out of these loosely connected scenes of an intro. So what is it I want to do? Simple. I want to flesh out Mike and Melissa. I want to take what the pilot has and add and spin until I can create something that resembles a basic story. To do this, I'm going to look at the pilot and create a structure for the story to follow. I'll create a small pool of characters to inhabit the story besides the titular characters Mike and Melissa. And finally, I want to present a short insight for what this redesigned pilot would look like. If you'll indulge me in this idea, I would greatly appreciate it. And who knows, if you like what you see, maybe I might do a sequel with something worse. So, with all that said, let's see what I could do to improve this furry's wet dream. Our first problem we have to tackle for this reimagining of a pilot is the plot. For those who haven't seen Mike and Melissa, bless you, you sweet summer child. But know that we'll have to cover the pilot just so you can understand what kind of shit we're working with. So, Mike wakes up on a normal day and starts howling at himself in the mirror. From there he goes to class where he listens to a boring lecture from his professor, and after that he attends a party where he listens to some garbage music, gets drunk, and pees on a tree. He returns home to, pleasure himself to relieve some stress. Then he comes across Melissa, who shows up out of nowhere to pleasure Mike to relieve some stress. After their romantic night, Mike leaves in a hurry, with Melissa following shortly afterward. They embrace in the moonlight, remarking on how cheesy of an ending this is, and then credits roll.
What the hell is that?
I know. Mike and Melissa is just a cringy, I want to date my furry waifu story. And, brother, if you thought that was bad, imagine watching it all in action. It's not great. But how do we improve all of this? So my first step was deciding what to keep, what to discard, and what to change. And I think we all know what the first thing to get rid of is. With that out of the way, my first change is to give this a line of connection. All of the scenes I mentioned above are very loosely connected and do a bad job of cluing the audience in at what the hell is going on. I mean, Mike has no motivation to do anything in the short, and reflects nothing on his desires. I mean, if you count getting laid as a goal. I think a very basic way to connect these things would be very simple. Take the boring class scene, and instead of Mike falling asleep, have this be a moment where someone introduces the party. Depending on Mike's goals, he'll either accept and go, or decline. But if he does decide to decline, we'll give him a reason for wanting to attend. For example, say Mike's friend is gonna play for the party. Mike wants to attend to support his friend. Or Mike's love interest is going to the party. Mike wants to go to get closer to his lover. Next, the party. In the pilot, Mike gets drunk, listens to shitty music, and rants about a series pilot. You know, before peeing on a tree. What I think the creator was trying to imply was that the party was a bust, and Mike leaves feeling worse than when he went in. The problem to me is that the party doesn't really mean anything to Mike. In the pilot, Mike has a bad time, big deal, whatever. Maybe it was just supposed to set up his lifestyle or some shit like that. But it doesn't really communicate why it was a bad time outside of Mike failing to connect to a woman. So our job here is to give him a reason to feel like the party sucked. Using the layouts I mentioned before, what if at the party he does something humiliating that steals attention away from his friend's performance? Or what if at the party he actively sabotages his friend's performance? You know, for something that he could have done to Mike. This could also be applied to the girl scenario, but replace second option with something stupid like, have you met my boyfriend Mark? Sending Mike down a depressive spiral for not flirting with her first. You know, something stupid like that. From there, we meet Melissa in the naughty scene of the pilot. Melissa existing has no build-up and comes completely out of nowhere. Not only that, but the whole love scene is just too weird and off-putting to use for the story. I mean, unless you are making some kind of shmentai or weird adult film. My point being, my best fix for the scene is to explore Mike's psyche in his sleep. It would be a great chance to explore his wants via a dream sequence after a horrible night. And for all you sickos, no, I'm not referring to those kinds of dreams. There could be a scene of Melissa inside the sequence, but if I were to include it, I would like to make her presence very ominous compared to the rest of the scene. And finally, we arrive at the ending. This part is just confusing for me. See, after doing the Devil's Tango, Mike wakes up and leaves in a hurry, but it's still kind of night. I'm not sure if the creator was trying to imply that it's early morning, or he had such a great time that he slept the whole day, or, you know, maybe I'm just not understanding the time of it all, but it's clearly a night-like scene when he and Melissa embrace. My answer to this scene is completely rewriting it. A lot of great shows introduce a twist in a shocking kind of scenario. For example, Beastar's first episode ends with Legoshi attempting to eat his love interest Haru. The Good Place's first episode ends with Eleanor and Chidi reacting to the mass chaos that comes from someone who doesn't belong in the Good Place. I mean, hell, Avatar's first episode ends with Aang and Katara getting locked in a Fire Nation abandoned ship, accidentally setting off an alarm to attract the attention of nearby threats. So, for the final parts of our episode, I think the perfect cliffhanger would be the introduction of Melissa. She doesn't have to do much, but give Mike a shock and question his mental state. It's my belief that with this kind of structure, Mike and Melissa now has a decent standing for an opening episode. We get Mike's wants, we see his struggles he'll face in the episode, and we have a conclusion to keep watchers invested. But then we run into our next problem. So, for any show or story of that kind, the tone, setting, and general story of the idea really determines what kind of characters we need. Now, I don't think it's groundbreaking to say that Mike and Melissa isn't some death-defying action drama. Mike and Melissa, from what I could gather, was supposed to be a slice-of-life romance that followed the hijinks of the title characters. As such, the characters of the show need to be more, for lack of a better word, light and comedic. There could be some real baggage for our characters, but since we're only delving into this for like a one-shot, we just need traits to exaggerate for comedic effect. Let's take Mike for example. In the pilot, we can see that he is an insecure individual who likes metal and skunk tail. While this makes him a character, it makes him a very annoying and unbearable one. I can't say for certain why the creator chose to show themselves off like this, but we need to remedy this before we can move on to the other characters. So in this new concept, I would paint Mike as our straight man protagonist to the world's absurdities. He's the type of character to bring others down to reality and keep their metaphorical boat stable. However, to contrast this, Mike is also a shut-in dreamer. They're a passionate artist who dreams that they'll make it big while simultaneously live in their dorm room, going out occasionally for food. This could bring some comedic moments where Mike gets called out for his hypocritical actions after trying to reason with others. Despite all this though, there's one last thing we need to touch on before discussing anyone else. A goal. To me, the biggest flaw with the short is that Mike has no goal. The story just kind of happens, and Mike just responds to what's going on. He is a character who moves through the story without contributing to the events around him. This is fine for like a background character, but not for a main character, like Mike is supposed to be. So, what is Mike's mission? What does Mike want in our story? My solution was simple. Let's just make him lack the one thing any character in anime has. The power of friendship. Mike's journey is one of forming bonds and relationships. He starts out as a character who shuts himself away from the outside world and lacks any real connections outside of his roommates. But by the end of the story, he'll have developed a close-knit group of friends and a love interest he can lean on for support. Speaking of love interests, let's take that title away from Melissa. Listen, I know the common joke to make with Mike and Melissa is that it's a guy who wants to bang his imaginary skunk girlfriend, but if we want to try and mend this, we'll need to separate the art from its creator. Melissa as a character is energetic and kind, and that is all there is to her, kinda making her a potato of a character. Melissa is just a person in a skunk costume. Literally anyone can be nice and fill in Melissa's role for the story. I mean, Melissa is the thing that gives the series its twist, and nothing is known about her. So how do we fix this? For one, we need to give Melissa an actual character. We can keep her being kind and energetic, but there needs to be more than just that. Why is she Melissa? So, based off of what we know about her from the short, that being some kind of skunk spirit, I want to make Melissa's character very simple, alright? She's a naive go-getter who can be incredibly stubborn when she doesn't get what she wants. I wanted to make Melissa this way to act as an opposing force to Mike. Melissa would be the driving force that puts Mike into conflict whenever the two are together. But more important, Melissa would act as a symbol of Mike's growing relationship with others. She starts out as an entity that only Mike can see, but as Mike continues to rely on others and begins to open himself up, Melissa will be revealed to his friends. And finally, as our deuteragonist, Melissa also needs a goal. There has to be a reason why Melissa showed up to Mike, of all people. So, here's what I came up with. Melissa was a skunk. She was a creature that received countless hate from humans. Justified, clearly. And unlike other skunks, she preferred to live in a pack than in solitary. This would lead to her demise when she attempts to chase another skunk for companionship and gets turned into roadkill. So, Melissa's mission is to give someone else the pack that she wanted, so that way she can depart into the afterlife. The reason why she takes the form of an anthro character is to make herself seem more approachable to the person she's connected with. I would like to think that the more she would reference the furry scale, the more approachable she would be, and 5 would be something more of a spirit rather than something tangible, like kind of like a Patronus from Harry Potter or something. I don't know, I think it would be just kind of silly. And now that the main characters are done, we can move on, right?
Right? Wrong!
I want to quickly establish a few more characters. These characters, similar to Melissa, would drive conflict for Mike in one way or another to get him closer to his end goal. The first is his roommate. I don't have a name for these characters, so come up with some for me, alright? This character would share Mike's passion for the arts, as they would be a basis for a band they're in. However, unlike Mike, they lack the drive to get discovered traditionally. They would rather craft schemes to steal gigs and crash events.
Psst, this would be the band that crashes the party in the original.
Next is the popular kid. I kind of went back and forth on what I wanted to do with this character, because on one hand, they could be the generic 80s, 90s jock that constantly picks on Mike for his antisocial lifestyle. But on the flip side, they could just be a rich popular kid that means no harm to Mike, but Mike actively hates out of envy or jealousy. And finally, we have the real love interest for the series. That's right, I am gonna add one that isn't a furry character. Let's go! Again, come up with the name for her in the comments, but in the meantime, we'll just simply address her as Girl. So, Girl would be another popular girl, but not in the good kind of way. She's a narc on the debate team. But she has good intentions, alright? Because of her skills, she earned a reputation of intimidation among her classmates because she can prove her point in 72 different convincing ways. Girl would actively try to dispute the fear from her classmates by joining social situations, try and show off her lax side, but, would fail one way or another. Mike would find her attractive because she has Step On Me vibes and her appearance. And now, with everything set, I will present you the concept of a remade pilot of Mike and Melissa with everything I said here. One morning, in a bathroom, Mike is checking himself out in the mirror. He comments on how dumb he looks, and thinks he looks like some kind of psycho. Before he can do some cringy howl, from the other room, his roommate yells at him to hurry up. Mike quickly gets ready for the day, and he and his roommate leave for their morning classes. As they leave the dorm, Mike's roommate tries to encourage Mike to explore campus and try new things. This conversation leads Mike to explain to his roommate that trying to open up will leave you exhausted and possibly dead, using roadkill on the road as an example. Entering school, the duo overhear from the popular kid that he plans to have a party that night, where everyone is invited. With the exception of the loser kids, in the event it's a generic 80s, 90s jock. In class, Rumi comes up with a plan to crash a party with his band. Mike tries to bring his roommate to earth by laying the potential consequences of this, which leads Rumi to tell Mike to live a little, Mike tells his roommate that he's uninterested in going. Rumi tells Mike that if he's interested later, he's always open, and the scene closes with the teacher telling Mike and his roommate to pay attention. Scene then cuts to the afternoon after classes. Mike is planning to return to the dorms, continue drawing, and watch anime, when he noticed someone dropping a cooler. Mike goes to help them, but oh no, he comes into contact with Girl! Girl thanks Mike for helping her clean up her mess, and explains that she was taking this to a party tonight. She explains that she can be a bit of an intimidating force to talk to, so she wants to try to do right by bringing refreshments. Mike tells her that it's a great idea, but internally is cringing at Girl for bringing different types of water to a college party. Girl leaves the scene with the cooler in hand, and Mike calls his roommate with newfound desire to go to the party. As the sun begins to set, Mike gets thrown into the back of his roommate's van, as they make their way to Popular Kid's party. When they get there, they sneak into the event by claiming to be the band at the night's event. Shotgun River band that played with the monkey instruments if it's the rich kid, alright? At the party, Mike would be surrounded by people he doesn't know, making him feel claustrophobic. He has a few drinks to chill him out, and comes across Popular Kid. Popular Kid makes Mike feel more outcasted in the highly populated party, and reveals to Mike that girl already has a boyfriend. Mike drinks more to try and forget this and gets kicked out of the party with his roommate after their band tries to play. After this, Mike would have a dream sequence where a happy dream of talking to his creations slowly delves into a nightmare where his creations berate him for all of his insecurities he has about himself. However, a wispy illusion of an animal dances around Mike in his dream and protects him from the onslaught of criticism. Mike wakes up the next day confused and goes to the bathroom to get ready. He stares back into his face in the mirror, making the same comments as yesterday. However, this time, Melissa pops up from behind him, recommending a shower. Mike is completely taken aback at the sight of Melissa and falls to the ground with a loud thud. Rumi opens the door to check on Mike, and Mike asks what the woman is doing. Rumi thinks Michael had a bit too much to drink, and is hallucinating someone in the room. As Rumi leaves, Melissa turns to Mike and introduces herself as his animal companion. End of episode 1. That's how I'd redo all of Mike and Melissa. Sure, it's not a masterpiece, and it's, kind of generic. But, I still think it's better than... What I wanted to try and do is, kind of create a situation similar to a show like I Dream of Jeannie, and I couldn't tell you if this is better or worse than the pilot that was left on YouTube to this day, but it was my best shot at trying to fix something. But then again, what do I know? I'm just that dude over there talking about someone's fanfic. If you like what you watched, again, please spread the video around, as it helps idiots like me who suck at promoting videos. And until next time, stay safe out there.